Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Saying no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. Yes-filled life. Let's talk about what that means for just a second. You know that feeling you get where you throw your fists up in the air and you say, yes, that's a yes-filled life. And my goal is to guide you to that life. And you know what? It is possible. So this podcast is devoted to empowering high-performing women and men to live their most vibrant, fulfilled lives. So I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, and today we're diving in to a topic that is really present on my mind, and that is empowering people with high levels of empathy and compassion to thrive. And I'll talk you through my power framework. This framework was developed especially for people with high levels of empathy and compassion. Whether you are a physician, a nurse, a coach, a healer, a leader, a realtor, or anyone who feels deeply, this episode is for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So high empathy individuals feel everything. So what does this mean? Well, it means that if you are in a room of people, you can probably sense and feel the emotions on both sides of the extreme. You can feel people who are experiencing a high level of stress or sadness, anger, and you can probably feel people when they have high levels of joy or expansion. You feel everything. And depending on what your background is, if you came from a background that had high levels of chaos, unpredictability in the home, or even abuse, you probably feel safest when everyone in the room is either neutral or experiencing positive emotionality. And that's because there have been recent studies that reveal high levels of empathy are correlated with unpredictable childhoods. So, yes, there is a biological genetic component to high levels of empathy, as I talked about in last week's episode. Go check that out if you haven't listened yet. But there's also an environmental component, meaning that this can become a survival technique for you if you lived in a home with high levels of unpredictability or chaos. So, one of the things that happens for people with high levels of empathy and compassion is that it can create feelings of being drained, depleted, or overwhelmed. Raise your hand if you've ever felt drained, depleted, or overwhelmed. My hand is up. Now, one reason for this is that your energy field, at your electromagnetic energy field that surrounds your body, we could study this in science. It's sometimes called the aura. So I'm just going to use the term aura because it is simpler than saying electromagnetic field. So sometimes the aura becomes saturated with external energies or emotions that aren't yours. So in this first portion of your Yes Filled Life today, I'm going to share with you how you can manage this by being more present and how your presence can have a big impact on whether you expand or compress your energy field and why you'd want to do that. So, I'm going to lead you through a visualization. It's very, very simple. You can do this even if you're driving, as long as you do not close your eyes. So, what I'd like you to do is to imagine a protective bubble around you. Now, this bubble around you is going to represent your aura or your electromagnetic field. You have the ability to make the boundary of this bubble firmer or more diffuse. A more diffuse edge of your aura or bubble allows you to take in more emotionality from around you. A firmer edge of the bubble allows you to keep what's yours and them to keep what's theirs. So, this bubble is something that you have around you every day, all day, anyway. And it acts kind of like a buffer. I don't want to call it a barrier because we don't want to create divisiveness. We don't want separation because if you separate yourself from the energies or emotions of the people around you, it can lead to feeling very, very lonely. So, if you have felt lonely as someone with a high level of empathy and compassion, it's very likely because the field around you is such a firm boundary that it kind of keeps people out. So, there is benefit to having a more diffuse boundary around the edge of the bubble that's around your aura. And also, if there's too much energy coming at you, it can be too much for your system. And so it can help you absorb things you don't actually want to absorb. At any rate, this bubble can help you maintain your energy and your presence throughout the day. So I want you to imagine right now that you can expand the bubble as wide as you need to if you're seeking information, which you actually can do this with your energetic field. And at the Energetic Mastery Retreat in Beaverton, Oregon, September 24th through 28th, I'm going to show you how to do this. It's one of our sessions. In fact, it's going to come on our first full day, which is actually day 2. We're going to be playing with this energetic field, how you can expand it and compress it, depending on the situation. So let's say, for example, you're walking down the streets of New York City. If you're walking down the streets of New York City, you probably don't want your energetic field as wide as you can make it because you would have everyone around you walking through your field. And in that case, you would absorb a lot of energy and emotionality that's not yours. So, when you're in a situation that includes a lot of people, a lot of energy, or a high level of emotionality, you want to actually keep that tight against you. So, now I'd like you to imagine that you're bringing that bubble, that protective bubble, in close to your body. And it's not separation. Imagine it like it's a jacket, okay? The jacket doesn't keep you from being around other people, but the jacket does protect you when it rains. So, this is the same kind of thought. We don't want to separate from other people because that leads to that deep, deep loneliness that people with empathy and compassion sometimes feel. I don't know if this hits for you, but there was many, many, many times in my life when I felt deeply lonely because I had put up so much of an energetic barrier that I felt that separation. And we really don't want that. That doesn't feel good to us. And so we'll be talking more about finding that sweet spot for you at the Energetic Mastery Retreat in Beaverton in September. So, another way that you can really dial in your presence is to stay grounded. Now, this I may have gotten ahead of myself and not told you that the power framework for empaths, power is P for presence, O for optimize, W for wisdom, E for evaluate, R for renew. So, we're still talking about the P for power. So, grounding is another really powerful technique. A simple way that you can ground is to go outside and find a place where there's grass or dirt and actually put your feet there. If you can stand to have your bare feet in the grass or the ground, it is an immediate grounding response. Some people call that earthing, and it has a really, really calming effect on the nervous system. It's a great way to get grounded. There are also a number of crystals that you can use to help you with your grounding if you're interested in that. In fact, I'm curious, are you interested in learning more about crystals? Because if you are, I could develop some content and some podcast episodes, especially about crystals and which crystals to use for which things. So let's dive into the second piece of the power framework for empaths, and that is optimize. So when we talk about optimizing, we're talking about optimizing two things: your energy and the environment. When you work closely with others, whether it's in physical proximity to others, or you're working with others, or you're in close quarters, or you're in a highly emotional situation, you can develop something called compassion fatigue and decision fatigue. They actually go hand in hand. And the reason is because as someone with a high level of empathy and compassion, you have all these little, I'm going to call them antenna for lack of a better word, because you'll understand what I mean when I say antenna. And your antenna are searching for signals. You're searching for signals of safety, safety for yourself, safety for others, because in your system, it feels better to have everyone feeling either neutral or positive, right? So your little antenna, which you don't actually have antenna, by the way, your little antenna are searching, 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 and that can create a feeling of decision fatigue because in addition to making all of the decisions that everyone around you is making, you're also making decisions about how to help this person. Should you help this person? Should you offer help? Should you stay in your own lane? Which part of it's your responsibility? Which part of it's their responsibility? Are you being selfish if you don't help? How can you still be a compassionate, kind human being if you don't get involved with this thing that's actually none of your business? Does that sound familiar? Ask me how I know. So this optimize, we're going to optimize your environment and your energy. So, when you're a person with a high level of empathy and compassion, one of the things that comes up for us is it's difficult to discern our decisions from the influence of people around us, right? So, as we dive into the power framework, this will come up again in some of the other pillars of the power framework. But in this specific framework, or this specific pillar, the optimize pillar, we're going to talk about how you can optimize your environment so that you can really have a better idea of what decisions are yours and which decisions are free from the influence of other people. One of the most important things that you can do is to make sure that your work environment, the place where you are making the bulk of your decisions, whether that's in your home, in an office, or somewhere else, is really, really clean. Why? Because energy is everything. And when there is a little bit of clutter around you, there's energy that's coming and it stagnates on the clutter. So it's super important for you to clear that because you'll actually have a better sense of what decisions are yours when you can clean up, quite literally, clean up the energy around you. You can also optimize this with plants and crystals. And again, let me know if you're curious about learning more about the plants and crystals, because as a Reiki master, I have a lot of experience and background with plants of various kinds and crystals that could really help you optimize this space. It's a good idea to minimize the decisions that you have to make around your workspace, which is the other reason clearing the clutter around it is a really good idea. That way, in the back of your mind, you're not thinking, should I move this cord over there because it looks kind of like it's in the way? Should I move this stack of papers? Is that something I need to manage today? Should I write in this journal? Should I write on the journal that I have opened on my computer? Again, the clutter actually impacts your decision fatigue. And no one was more disappointed than me to realize that clutter was impacting my ability to activate my own energy. I have been a lifelong piler and I like to have things in piles. And you could ask me at any given time where a specific piece of paper or document was on the pile in my desk, and I would be able to tell you. What I didn't realize until fairly recently, like last 5 years, 6 years or so, is that when we have piles around us, not only are we picking up the energy around us, it stagnates on that clutter, but we're adding to our own decision fatigue by having those piles because in the background of our mind, we're always thinking, which items should I be attending to? So when we talk about optimizing your environment, clearing that clutter is number one priority. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to dedicate your life to cleaning. What I would invite you to do is to set a timer for 30 minutes a week. If you have additional time and you're not feeling too stressed in your life, make it 15 or 30 minutes a day. But that would only be for you if you have a handle on things and you're not feeling overwhelmed. If you're feeling overwhelmed, make it 30 minutes a week that you're managing clutter and start with the place where you spend the most time making decisions, whether that's your workspace or your kitchen or whatever that looks like for you. Now, the other thing is when it comes to optimizing your energy, you want to be really mindful about making sure that you're hydrated. I know I talk about this all the time, but it is essential. Joe Dispenza released a scientific study that proved that we are 99.999% energy and 0.001% matter. Now, I did some of my own research and learned that of that 0.001% that's matter, 60% of that is water. So if you are dehydrated, you're literally not moving energy through your body in an optimal way. There are tons of different scientific studies that say how much water you could drink. Some say 1 ounce. What is it? No, it's a half an ounce per pound of body weight is one way to go about it. That would mean, like, if you were 100 pounds, you'd be drinking 50 ounces of water. I like to think of something a little bit different, and I like to think about drinking at least 2.5 liters per day as my baseline. And then I actually increase that depending on the energy that I'm moving in a day or the environment that I'm in, if it's hot, if I'm sweating. But my baseline minimum is 2.5 liters per day. And I had a guest on the podcast about a year and a half ago named Deborah Smith, who is a health and nutritional coach. And she said that for women's bodies, 2.5 liters per day is optimal. And for men's bodies, 3 liters a day is optimal. But remember that all of these are best guesses and they vary a lot depending on your lifestyle, your activity style, or your activity level, and the temperature and environment as far as climate around you. But a good baseline to get started with would be that 2.5 or 3 liter a day mark to really optimize your own energy. And then I really invite you to add some electrolytes. My personal favorite, and I'm not a current affiliate with them, although I would like to be, is Primal Harvest. Primal Harvest hydration packets are my favorite. I feel so good. They have very low sugar, and I know that they make a difference. So, invitation to try a few electrolytes as well. Okay, let's talk about the third pillar of the power framework, and this is wisdom, specifically how you can really tap into your own knowing around what's true for you, what's true in the situation, and what to do next. So, one thing that comes up for people with high levels of empathy and compassion is when there is someone in distress around us, oftentimes without knowing it or realizing it, we absorb other people's stress or worry. So, this is something that I would like to teach you how to stop doing because it is literally impacting your life force. It's impacting your life expectancy. It's impacting your happiness, your well being, your energy, and it's absolutely impacting your business if you're an entrepreneur. And here's why. If you're absorbing energy, think about all the things that a sponge can absorb. You are absorbing everything, the good, the bad, the toxic, the ugly. And that really has to stop. And this is an unpopular opinion because a lot of people will tell you, it's the other people's problem because they're toxic. Nope. The truth is, you are absorbing energy and you have control over whether or not you absorb it. So here's one of the things that comes up for people. Finances and abundance is one of the most common sources of stress and worry. And that is also one of the things that impacts empaths and people with high levels of compassion first. You hear someone worried about their money, and the next thing you know, you're worried about your money. And if you're anything like me, and this has happened to me, which is how I know, the next thing you know, you can see symptoms of that in your own finances. So we really have to stop absorbing this energy. So the best way that I know to do that is through generative practices like breath work, meditation, and somatic movement. So, somatic movement is movement with intentionality to release stored energy. We have a whole segment at the Energetic Mastery Retreat where we're going to be talking about what kind of somatic movements are best for relieving which kinds of energy. And I'll be guiding you through some. You can feel them in your own body. It's going to be amazing. I don't know if I told you that you can get information about that retreat by going to brendawinkle.com/energetic. It's going to be a really special event. It's small. There's 6 participants only, and I've sold 1 spot. So there are 5 remaining spots. So if you think you want one of those spots, I invite you to get your spot saved because I really do think it's going to sell out because it's such an amazing event. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're absorbing other people's financial stress or worry, that can actually lead to business setbacks, not just showing up in your personal finances, but showing up in your business finances. And so, as we talk about the W, the wisdom piece of the power framework for empaths, having the wisdom to understand what's yours and what's not is a lot about learning skills of discernment. And so, the best thing you can do when you start to notice that you're feeling a sensation like worry, fear, scarcity, or maybe you're feeling a sensation in your body like muscle tightness or something in your stomach, the first thing I invite you to do is ask yourself, is this mine? And you will be amazed and surprised at how often the answer is no. Now, if it is yours, then there are some things that we can do, right? We can do the breath work and somatic movement and meditation to clear that. You can reach out for support. You can get a coach. You can work with a healer. You can even talk to your therapist. But if it's not yours, what do you do to clear it? Well, this is coming in with the E of the power framework. So as we're evaluating whether or not it's ours, and the W and the E are going to overlap here for just a second. As you're allowing yourself to understand, is this mine? Is this not mine? We want to be mindful of something I call the merge. The merge is when you accidentally merge with the energy or emotions of another person. So if you have ever sat with somebody who's having an emotional experience and they're beginning to cry, and the next thing you know, you begin to cry as well, as though it's your own tears, your own situation, your own emotions as they tell this story, that's called a merge. Now, this is something that empaths do very easily and very, very naturally. And it's a way that you're absorbing energy and emotion that's not yours. So we want to maintain a level of compassion without the merge. That's the ideal state. So you can maintain that compassion that you need to work with people and maintain your high level of empathy without wearing it in your own body like it's a cloak, right? So, one of the most important things you can ask yourself is this mine? And if the answer is yes, then take appropriate action. If the answer is no, I'm going to invite you to do something you probably never heard of before. I'm going to invite you to take your hands by your chest and push out away in front of you and around and just say, all energy that's not mine, leave. All energy that's not mine, leave. And you'll be, I mean, you're going to feel an immediate sense of relief. And I know it sounds a little bit weird. That's because it is. And, but trust me, try it. Just push away all energy that's not yours with that intent. And you're going to be absolutely gobsmacked at how much better you feel instantly. So, as we talk about evaluating We're also talking about diagnosing energy issues, energy leaks, ways that you're taking on energy, or that you're like leaving your own energy around. We're going to come back to this after a short pause. Imagine knowing how to stop taking on energy and emotion that aren't yours. You'll have less exhaustion and easier decision making. Imagine maintaining your deep love and care for people and being able to set the boundaries that you know you need to set. Imagine being able to discern between your emotionality and the emotionality of the people around you. Imagine being able to clear your energy so that your business or your career can grow in healthy and sustainable ways. Less than 10% of the population is estimated to have the empathic abilities you have, based on a study from 2022. And up to now, you've mostly figured out how to navigate this on your own through trial and error, right? As an empathic professional or entrepreneur, you face unique challenges because you feel everything: your feelings, your team's feelings, your clients' feelings, and the energy around you. And up to now, it's felt lonely, isolating, exhausting, and sometimes painful. You know that you have something special to offer the world, but lately, your deep empathy and compassion has made this feel kind of hard. It's easy to accidentally value the advice you get from well meaning advisors and mentors over your own inner knowing. You know what needs to be done in your business or career, but sometimes it's felt difficult to put that business's needs above everyone else's feelings, and you know that needs to change. You've done the inner work, you've gone to therapy and invested heavily in yourself, and you're very good at what you do. You've enjoyed success. You know people will benefit from what you have to offer. But sometimes you feel like running your business or advancing in your career comes with the cost of your inner peace, and you're ready for that to change. You want to be known as much as you know others. You want to be around people who also have empathic abilities so that some of your needs and desires can be anticipated just like you anticipate others. And you really want to stop being on guard all the time, worried about how you'll protect your energy and your business. Does this sound like you? Then this is for you. Introducing the Energetic Mastery Retreat for empathic professionals and entrepreneurs. This retreat will empower you to elevate your empathic abilities to a new level of mastery, enabling you to effectively harness and manage your innate power so you can increase your income and impact and amplify your agency and sovereignty so that you can create the life you truly desire without the guilt while maintaining deep compassion and care. And so you can use your empathic abilities to fuel you by supporting you in more deeply connecting to yourself, to others, and to source. Your empathy and compassion can become your superpower and the key to the changes you want to make in your life. You'll learn my power method in person, which was developed especially for empaths. This exclusive retreat is designed for intuitive, empathic, sensitive, and successful women who are ready to step into their power, refine their energy, and achieve unparalleled levels of fulfillment and success. Join me for 5 powerful days at the Energetic Mastery Retreat in a beautiful luxury Airbnb in the Portland, Oregon area. Step into the most confident and empowered version of yourself. This all inclusive retreat includes your lodging, your food, all workshops, a cacao ceremony, plenty of time to relax, recharge, and renew, all your meals, and transportation to and from Portland International Airport. The only thing you have to do is to get yourself to Portland. For more information, go to brendawinkle.com/energetic. We've been talking about the power framework for empaths, whether you're a professional or an entrepreneur. And we're partway through the E. We've done the P for presence, the O for optimize, the W for wisdom, and we've just begun talking about the E for evaluate. Now, one of the most powerful things that you can do to really get clear on where you're leaking energy so that you can diagnose energy problems is to start tracking. And the best way that I know of to track energy is to actually record it. Now, you can do this in a journal, you can do this on a note in your phone. But when you start to track your energy, you'll notice patterns emerging. You'll notice that there are certain situations or people that you are always energized by. And you'll also notice that there are certain people or situations that you are depleted by. When you notice what things you're feeling energized by, do more of those things to really resource yourself. And where you're noticing that you feel depleted, that's an important opportunity for you to be able to solidify that energetic boundary, especially around your aura, like we talked about in the P framework of the presence, when we were talking about adjusting the size of your electromagnetic field. You can impact and choose the size of this field, but you can also impact how that border is. Is it more diffuse? Are you allowing more energy in, or is it firmer? If you notice energy leaks, it's time to firm up that barrier. And this is one of the things that we're going to be working on in person live at the Energetic Mastery Retreat in Beaverton, Oregon. So when you start tracking your energy in a journal or in a note on your phone, and you start to get really clear on where these patterns are, you're going to have so much information to make future decisions from, because it's going to become very clear to you which situations are actually moving you forward. And here's the thing, I want to give you permission. You don't need my permission, but sometimes we need to hear it from somebody. I want to permission you to do a lot less with and for the people who are depleting you. Now, if this is in the form of a job, there are still some things that you can do in that job to take responsibility for your own energy, starting with your actual workspace. So we talked about that. One of the biggest things that I have noticed that separates people who are able to successfully manage their energy from people who are not is a willingness to take responsibility. So the R is technically for renew, but I also wonder if I should have added responsibility in there, because the truth is, if you're not willing to take responsibility for your own energy, you're always going to feel like someone else has control over how you're feeling. So when I tell you to take responsibility, it's not because I'm making you bad or wrong. It's because I want you to feel like you have some say in how things are happening for you. If you are always waiting for other people, then it feels like you're giving away a lot of your control. So, as we move into the R for renew, we're going to be talking about one of the ways that you can renew, resource yourself after being depleted. But the truth is, that's actually too late. I mean, yes, we're going to talk about that because that comes up for everybody who has a high level of empathy and compassion. But it's even more impactful if you can begin to resource on the front end. So I had a reel about this earlier this week, or if, and maybe it was a Facebook Live, Instagram Live, I'm not sure which. But the point is this: if you let your car get all the way to empty, it is so much harder to fill it, because then you have to walk or take a ride to the gas station. You have to find a gas can. You have to put gas in the gas can. Then you have to get back to your car to refill the car with just that little gallon or 3 gallons. And then you still have to go to the gas station and fill the car the rest of the way up with gas. Ask me how I know. But if you keep track of your fuel in your car and you are sure that, by the time you get to a little less than a quarter of a tank, you go to the gas station, you're always making sure you don't ever get to empty. If you can treat yourself like that, it's going to be game changing for you. Because the truth is, if you get to the point where you're depleted, it is going to be so much harder for you to come back to a neutral starting place than if you can intervene when you start to notice the very first time that you're depleted, which goes back to what we were saying just a moment ago about the importance of keeping track. So, one of the things that happened for me during COVID, and I've talked about this before in other podcast episodes, I I just decided to jump in on the complaining. And I was part of the problem in a school, and I was a complainer. And what I noticed is that I was really fatigued. I didn't feel great in my body. And next thing you know, I had a reputation as being a complainer. Even though I had years and years and years of really exemplary service, it just takes a couple of complaints for that to all change. And it really impacted how people saw me and how I saw myself. And so I decided I was going to take responsibility for it. And the first thing I did was start to track how I felt. And what I noticed was when I was in that complaining energy, I did not feel good. I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel good about the school or anybody in it. And I also noticed that I was depleted and exhausted. So by tracking my energy, I came face to face very quickly with the culprit. I was the culprit. And so many times it really does come down to us. What are you available for? What are you willing to tolerate? And when your answer to that begins to change and you raise the standards on what you're willing to accept and tolerate for yourself, then you'll notice that you have a much easier time of refilling your tank before it's empty. All this is to say, it might be a work in progress. You might need to give yourself some grace and some practice to really get this down, which is another reason why I want to encourage you to at least consider coming to the Energetic Mastery Retreat for empathic professionals and entrepreneurs, September 24th through the 28th. Remember that there are 5 spots left. So when when we're together at that retreat, we're also going to be talking about energetic buffers and energetic techniques like shielding, cleansing your aura, and grounding, which will all make it so that you can take on less energy from other people and you can retain more of your own power, which, I mean, doesn't that sound good? So, by using the power framework, presence, optimize, wisdom, evaluate, and renew, you can address the unique challenges faced by highly empathic and compassionate professionals and entrepreneurs. That's you, right? And the cool thing about this is you're going to feel like you have such better balance and more fulfillment in your own life because again, you're not being a victim to circumstances. You're not being a victim to energy around you. You're taking responsibility. And the first step as an empath is to really understand energy, to understand how you're taking it on, how you can take on less, to understand how to cleanse it if you do accidentally take it on. And I can't wait to show you at that retreat. I'm so excited about it. I've been interviewing chefs and so excited. I'm still in the process of choosing the perfect chef, but I have our location plotted out. It's a beautiful Airbnb. You'll each have your own bed. I know that that comes up for people. And today on Instagram, it's August 5th. I posted some pictures. I guess I posted this on Facebook too. I posted some pictures of me at a retreat in 2022. And at that retreat, I knew that I had to get there because I was tired of my own stuff. I knew that if I kept doing the same thing, nothing would change. And so I went to this retreat and my life changed forever after. I met new lifelong friends. I met 2 people who became my besties. We talk almost every day. It was absolutely a life-changing event. Now, it was partially due to the content of the retreat, but even more so, it was about who I met and who I became. The minute I signed up for that retreat and I flew from Portland to Miami by myself and I made friends with people and I had roommates with people I'd never met before that retreat who became my closest friends, I became a different person. I became somebody who was just a little bit braver. I became somebody who was willing to try a few more things. And I intentionally put myself in a room where I knew I was one of the least experienced entrepreneurs there because I had been very, very part time for about 7 years by that point, but I'd never gone full time. And it was shortly after that retreat in August of 2022 that I left my full time teaching position to work this business full time. And I really directly attribute that retreat to this because of the people that I met. We formed our own little mini mastermind, and the friendships that came from that are just some of the nearest and dearest. And, you know, I think being open to change is so important when it comes to being willing to to change. If you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. That's the reality. You can't do the same thing and think the results are going to change just because you want them to. You have to interrupt the cycle. You have to pattern interrupt. And retreats are such a wonderful way to do that because you get out of your normal day to day, you get out of your normal location, and you really just immerse yourself in this new energy. So I hope you consider it. Go check it out at brendawinkle.com/energetic. There are 6 total spots, 5 remain, and hopefully one of them is yours. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Brenda Winkle or send me an email, brenda@brendawinkle.com. Thank you so much for listening to Your Yes Filled Life.